Hi, this is KT Bradford, and I'm with Notebooks.com. And today I'm doing a quick video review of the HP Folio, which is starting up here next to me. This HP Folio is an Ultrabook. It's an Ultrabook built specifically for business, comes from HP, and I just want to go through some of the nicer aspects of this, one of which is that it's very fast. As you can see, it booted up in just a few seconds. That was cold start, and it's right into Windows. One of the things we like about Ultrabooks in general is how speedy they are, and the HP Folio is no exception. So I'm going to take you through some of the things we like about the Folio, a couple of things we don't like about the Folio, and just give you a sort of general wrap up at the end. Okay, so I just want to do a quick comparison. I mentioned in my review that the HP Folio actually reminds me a lot of the HP ProBook line, just because it has this nice smooth brushed lid, the metallic lid, the HP logo there, just very minimalistic and classy actually. And other than it being very thin, it just like has that look. I also have an HP ProBook here. And again, this is not an Ultrabook, so it's not thin or a comparison in that way, but just looking at again, like the nice metal lid, the logo, the lines actually are a little bit similar. I mean, it has like a similar aesthetic design language as opposed to it being just like a direct copy of this. But as you can see, the ProBook line and the Folio line have some aesthetic language in common, and that's because this is a business laptop, even though it's not labeled a ProBook. I think that HP did not necessarily want to, because even though they have the same design language, they are different. So they didn't put it in the ProBook line, but this is definitely for business. Another comparison I want to make is to the Lenovo U300S. This is an Ultrabook as well. And as you can see, it is very thin. It is also really light. It is lighter than the HP Folio. It's a hair thinner than the HP Folio as well. It has this nice orange lid on it, which is very exciting. But this is not a business notebook, even though it's made by Lenovo. This is an idea pad. But I just wanted to show you how they compare size-wise. They both have 13-inch display. Even though the HP Folio has, it's a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier than the U300S. I still actually prefer it for many reasons, and one of which is the port selection. So again, yeah, as you can see, the HP is a very thin notebook. It's under the specifications. This is an Ultrabook, and but even though it's thin, it does have a nice selection of ports along the side. So here we have the SD card slot. It's full SD card slot. This is USB 2.0, full HDMI, full Ethernet. And on the other side, we have a USB 3.0, and then this is the combo headphone and mic jack. So even though very thin, it still has a lot of the ports that you're going to want. It doesn't skimp on them. I believe the Toshiba Portage has the Portage Z835, which is another Ultrabook. It has a couple more ports, with one more USB port, and it also has VGA. But I think that for business users, this is a nice amount of ports. Maybe one more USB port would have been better, but it's not, you don't have to use dongles. You can just plug in your Ethernet, your cards, and I like that about this. All right, so just to give you an idea of the speed of the system, I'm just going to open up a couple of programs just so you can see how fast they launch. This has, as I said, SSD in a 128 gigabyte SSD, and so that means that we get really fast application opens. That is going to help things open faster, and then just everything overall move quickly. I discovered with this notebook that I was able to open up a lot of tabs in Firefox, which is a very resource-heavy program, as some of you may know. I opened a lot of tabs in Firefox and Chrome, and I was, still able to do everything else, like work in Paint, work in Paint.net, as you saw there. So this actually is going to give you some nice mainstream performance, even though it's an ultra low voltage processor. Now, as much as I do like this keyboard, I mean, there are some issues with it, but I do like it overall. The touchpad is another matter. When using the touchpad just to mouse around normally, it's actually okay. The surface is nice and slick, so you're not getting a lot of friction. And it's a click pad, so that you can use the whole thing to move around, but when you need to click, these two areas down here are good for that. And you can also turn the touchpad off if you like. You may actually end up turning off the touchpad because it doesn't have the palm rejection can be a little bit wonky. That can be a problem, but the bigger problem is just that the multi-touch stuff is not so great. So just taking a look at pinch and zoom. Getting it to work is not always fine-tuned. It's not smooth, and I had to tweak these settings a lot just to get the pinch and zoom not to go immediately all the way to like this every time I just like even touched it. And it also required a restart of the system after tweaking those settings, which is not something that you normally want to have to deal with. Like you don't want the pinch and zoom to just like immediately zoom too much out or zoom too much in when you're just trying to like go up 1 or 2 levels. And even with it like not doing that, it's still not the smoothest. The only good thing I can say about multi-touch on this is that the 2-finger scroll has worked for me every time I've done it. It's nice and smooth, and I like having 2-finger scroll ever since I got used to the MacBook ClickPad, and it just makes it so much easier than even having the side scroll. It's just more natural for me, so I do like that. But in terms of the pinching and zooming, other multi-touch gestures, not so much. The other thing is that every now and then, this is the way I use. Well, I'm not usually sitting directly in front of the computer, but I use the mouse with 2 hands. So sometimes having my finger here, the system recognizes that it's just resting there. It's going to use the left mouse button. But sometimes if my finger drifts up, then it decides that it's a multi-touch gesture. Or even if I have it down here, like it doesn't always recognize that that finger is just resting there, and so that's kind of a problem. Some other HP laptops have them, as you can see on this touchpad. There's like a little thing, just a little paint demarcating the mouse buttons, but on some other HP models, there's actually like a little bit of a line there, and I think I would actually prefer that. I mean, honestly, I prefer just having mouse buttons. I mean, I like having a nice big touchpad like this, but just on the usability front, just have some mouse buttons because that just makes it easier. Anytime there's a click pad involved, there can always be these issues. And nobody wants to have to deal with issues like that when they are trying to, use their computer. This touchpad is wonky enough and frustrating enough that I can't fully even recommend it to people unless they're willing to go ahead and use an external mouse. Like that's just how frustrating this touchpad could be to use it sometimes. Sometimes it was fine, other times it's wonky. I had to go in and tweak the settings an awful lot. So that I say is the biggest drawback of this notebook is this touchpad. Just a quick rundown of some of the other things I really like about this notebook. It has a nice display. This is a 13.3-inch display. It's very bright. I have the brightness turned down a lot right now just for the video, but it is very bright. It has nice colors. The only thing I don't like about it is that the viewing angles are not that great. You have to sort of be right in the sweet spot, and you also have to keep it back. Let me show you just how far it bends back. This is the limit to how far it bends back. But you definitely have to sort of push that display back almost as far as it'll go, or as far as it'll go, depending on how you're sitting, in order to get the best of it. So that's one of the issues with the display. When you get like the best of it, it is very good. Another thing is that there's a speaker bar right there. This is Dolby Sound, and for something this thin, it actually pumps out some pretty loud music and some good quality music too. Till the minutes you walked out the door, I forget what you left for. Guess that's a sign. Okay, so that's been our look at the HP Folio 13. This Ultrabook costs $8.99 when you buy it through HP's consumer channel. It costs $9.99 when you buy it through the business channel because it has the TPM security embedded, and enterprise users are definitely going to want that because it helps protect your data. So another thing I did not mention, I'm saving the best for last, is that this Ultrabook lasts a really long time on a charge. I was able to get 8 hours out of it on the battery test that we run from Laptop Magazine, and that's Wi-Fi running constantly and opening web pages with the screen on 40% brightness. Now, I did not have to turn this up to 40% brightness the entire time I was using it. I actually was able to turn it down a little bit more than that, and so you may be able to even get better battery life out of this in real world use, and plus you're not always going to need the Wi-Fi. But still, 8 hours on constant Wi-Fi at that brightness is very good. This is an all-day machine. You're going to be able to like close it up quickly as you leave the meeting, as you leave class, and then open it up, and it's going to resume from sleep very fast. So liking that, liking the speed of it, liking the keyboard, like that it's spill resistant, love the thinness, and that it's lightweight. You're going to be able to throw this in your backpack and not have to worry about it. You're not going to feel it that much. Throw it in your briefcase as well. And it has a nice port selection, even though it is pretty thin. Not so very thin, but again, it's like you want to have those full ports so you don't have to carry a dongle or worry about anything like that. The drawbacks here are that the display has, some narrow viewing angles, and this touchpad is a bit of a problem, or a lot of a problem, depending on your point of view. Basically, it can be very frustrating to use, and if you're going to go for this computer, I would suggest that you also invest in a nice external mouse, just in case you can't tweak the settings to your liking, because it's that much of an issue. But otherwise, a very solid Ultrabook from HP. This is KT Bradford with Notebooks.com taking a look at the HP Folio 13.